In this video, we are going to have a look at what is the order in which various effects inside, let's say, use effect, use layout effect, what is the ordering of the execution of the effects inside them. Apart from that, what is their absolute ordering with respect to the functional component execution itself. So, for example, let's say if there is an effect which is inside this use effect, and we'll just do a normal, let's say we'll just print A, and let's say there is a similar there's one more effect, but this is not normal effect, this is, let's say, use layout effect. We already saw in one of the videos what is the difference between use effect and use layout effect. So we have a couple of these. Apart from that, let's say we also have a simple C printing. Then what will happen if we are going to execute it? So yeah, obviously in dev mode we are going to have multiple re-renders, so it will be difficult to visualize, but let's run it in prod mode to see it properly. So I will see that we already have learned, in fact, that effects run later after the function has got executed. After that, effects run. So we know that C will be there, and after that A and B will be there. But what will be the ordering between A and B? See, the ordering is that we already saw in use layout effect video, is that the ordering will be something like, firstly this will run because effects run later. So firstly the body, whatever the console is inside the body itself, body of the functional component itself, that will run. After that, within when we compare with use effect with use layout effect, firstly use layout effect runs, and then this normal effect runs. And then reason we know, right? Once the body executes, this DOM is inserted, and before the painting is done, usually layout effect is that effect is called synchronously, and then the painting on the browser is done, and then after that this use effect runs. So that's why CBA, that is our expected behavior, and there it is, CBA. So yeah, this is pretty much fine. However, now let's make it slightly more complicated. What if we have a bunch of effects which are inside some other custom hooks. So for example, let's say I create my own hook function, and let's say this use my hook 1. So this is just one of the hooks which I'm trying to create here, and let's put let's again have this thing. Okay, and this is, let's say this is let's say A1 and B1. That should be fine. And then we are going to use this hook here. Yeah, so essentially what we are doing is that this use hook 1 is a custom hook which we created, and we are obviously calling it, that is fine. It also has use effect and use layout effect, but we are using that before our main bodies use effect and use layout effect. And let's put a normal body here also. So let's say C1, and whether we put this C1 here or here does not matter, because we know that for sure that first of all the body will run, and then only effects will run. So that does not matter whether we put it here or, for that matter, here. Sorry, I was trying to do something like this. Yeah, so whether we put it here or here, it does not matter. Okay, anyways, so the idea is that this one, let's try to firstly run this thing. Yeah, so we'll see that, yeah, see, C1 C, B1 B, A1. Okay, so yeah, so how does it make sense? So you can see what is happening, that let's make it somewhat easier to see. Okay, so now you can see that what is happening is that we know that firstly the body will run, right? So actually what is going to happen, that this hook body is going to run, and its effect, it has seen effects, but it will run it later, right? But it has seen that I have got two effects, but firstly C1 will run, that is fine. After that, this body has to continue. Again, it will see another two more effects. That is fine, it will run it later, but then it will see C, and that's why after C1 C is printed. Now after that, there are no consoles in the body itself. Now all the rest of the consoles are inside effects, and now effects are going to be running in the order in which they are seen. But again, if there are different types of effects, for example use effect and use layout effect, we know that use layout effect is going to run before use effect. But again, this applies to this use layout effect and this use layout effect both. So firstly, we are not going to compare between use effect and use layout effect, because we know that firstly use layout effect will run. More importantly, we are going to compare between this use layout effect and this use layout effect. And what is the order in which they are seen? Firstly this one and then this one, and that's why you'll see that firstly B1 is printed and then B is printed. Okay, and after that since use layout effects are done, after that use effect things will run, right? And again, what is the order in which this and this encountered? Firstly A1 and then A. That's why the final print is A1 and A. Okay, so that should be pretty much fine. Now let's try to do just a simple thing, that instead we will move our hook here. Okay, what will happen? So again the same thing. So this is pretty straightforward, that if this line would have been below C, then firstly C and then this hook will run, then this C and C1 will come. But right now, firstly this hook will run and then this will run. So essentially what is going to happen? These two effects are encountered first, then this thing is running, and in this again these two effects are encountered, and then C1 is running. So obviously C1 is part of the body, so C1 will run, and then C dot dot will run. So if I would have put this below, then everything else, all the else output other than this output will be same. The only difference will be that C1 will be after C, but right now C1 will be before C. Okay, let's see that. So what we are seeing here, yeah, so what we are seeing here is that firstly C1 will be there inside here, and then we are going to have C. That is fine. Now the effects will run, but effects in which order? We can see that firstly these two are encountered, and then these are, so comparing firstly layout effects, firstly this and this, the competition is between these two, and again which one is encountered first? This one, and that's why firstly B will be there, then B1, and after that we'll see that what is the order in which effects are visible. So obviously firstly A is visible and then A1 is visible, because A1 is called as a part of this hook. And again, so now you have fairly understood that how this thing is going to work. And again, if you use again let's say some other some other hook, use my hook 2, and then something is there inside it. So for simplicity, let's have a simple one thing, this thing, and let's say this is A2, and then you call it somewhere, let's say, I don't know, like between this and this. And again, so exactly the same logic you are going to apply again and again. So essentially what will happen, that yeah, firstly these two will be seen, and then I'm calling use hook 1, which will essentially call this whole thing. And in this there is no body here, but if there will be anything printed here, let's print that also too. Okay, so let's have something like this. Yeah, so what is going to happen? First of all, we will see that C2 will be printed, because so you can see that first of all use my hook 1 and then use my hook 2. So let's see, you can get the whole clarification here. So first of all use my hook 1, use my hook, again calls use my 2 hooks. So firstly C2, then C1, then C. The whole body is done. Then we are going to come to effects. What are the effects? Layout effect is used here and here, and here there is no layout effect. So the ordering will be B, firstly this thing, and then, or we saw this, so then B and B1, that is fine. Then we'll see the all the use effects. Now again, use effects, we know that first use effect is this, that's why A. After that, inside this we'll see that the first use effect is this, and that's why A1, and then I encountered this, and that's why it is A2. Now you can understand, if this would have been before this, then it would be A2 and then A1. So all in all, now you understand that how essentially the ordering of the various effects among themselves, between use effect and use layout effect, and with respect to anything inside the body, how the code is being executed. Plain and simple. First of all, body is executed. If it contains any other custom hooks, then the body is executed of that hook also in the same order in which it is encountered in the body. And while that body is being encountered, whenever any other effects are being seen, they are also seen, but actually they are executed later in the order again in which they were encountered. So that's pretty much simple rule, using which no matter how much complicated nested layouts are there, that sort of things, you can see that what is order. In essence, we will not use, obviously we discussed layout effect, and that's why we are discussing it here. Mainly you will mainly be seeing normal hooks, or custom hooks, or only normal hooks with some effects. So in this thing, it is pretty much clear that firstly the body will run and then effect will be run. This is the most important thing which generally you will have to pay attention. Other than that, other things should be normal. And you can understand, this is like normal class components, where component did mount will run later and render will run first. Okay, so here also we'll see that if this component is running and it has a component did mount, then here also we used to see, right, that if instead of this we are using this, okay, and if we are printing something, let's say this is B, and this is obviously you can see here it is A, then in a similar manner we'll see that firstly A will be printed and then B will be printed. So essentially the effect also in a similar manner, you can say that firstly A is printed and B is printed. So essentially in the same manner, use effect will also run after the render is done. Okay, because essentially use effect is a combination of component did mount, component did update, component will mount, unmount, all that only. So the effect of this effect will be essentially that similar to that only. Okay. Finally, let's take this example also. Till now we saw situations where the effects only had the body, not cleanup function. So now let's add a cleanup function in use effect also, and a cleanup function is in use layout effect also. We know that the syntax of use layout and effect and use effect is exactly similar, which means that as we know that we return a particular function which acts as a cleanup function in use effect. Similarly, we will return a cleanup function from here also. Now the situation is something like this. Let's take a simple situation. If you understand this, then again, if you have a custom hook and again they in turn have effects, and that custom hook is called from here, so those things you can understand. A basic example where there is a use effect and there's a use layout effect, and it has a body. In body it is printing A1, in cleanup it is printing A2, and similarly in layout effect, in body it is B1, and cleanup of that layout effect is B2, and in simply while render the body of the whole component has C. If this thing gets executed, I'm running it in prod mode right now, then you will get a behavior something like this. When the component mounts the first time, then you get C, B1, A1. This is expected, right? C, and then layout effect will run B1, and then this will run, use effect will run, right? So this C, B1, A1, C, B1, A1. So till here it is fine, right? Now let's say I change some props. So if I click on change name, then props will change, which means that this whole thing will re-render. Now if this whole thing will re-render, then obviously the previous effects cleanup will also run, right? So let's see that. If I click, then you can see that Now the thing is C B2 B1 A2 A1. So essentially C, and then I want B1, but before this effect will run, the previous layout effects cleanup will run. So that's why rather than C B1, it is C and then B2 and then B1, because the cleanup has run. And similarly, after that, rather than simply printing A1, it is printing A2 A1, because firstly the previous effects cleanup runs, that is A2 and then A1. So that's what we are seeing: C B2 B1 A2 A1, C B2 B1 A2 A1. Okay, so now you understand. And now if you understand this, then obviously all the other combinations of using custom hooks and all you can figure out on your own. But I just started a basic example. Now this thing will again repeat continuously how many times you do it. So again and again you keep on doing this, this will happen. Now just that every time this use effect has no dependency array, right? Then every time it is running, then this update is going on. Okay, and that's why this is happening. Now what will happen when ultimately this whole greeting component is unmounted? When it is unmounted, then obviously only the cleanup has to run, right? C, A1, A2, B1, these things will not run, right? So you can see that, and that I am simulating using something like this. You can see in app.js. So basically what I'm doing is that this num thing is starting with 10, and if I click on this change n, then it will become 11, and when it will become 11, then this greeting will unmount. So basically I just want to simulate that to unmount the greeting. So what happens when greeting is unmounted? So till the time it is not equal to 11, it is rendering, which is like right now it is 10, and that's why it is rendering. Now you can see that as soon as I click, then something will print here. When I click, then this 10 will become 11, and in 11 this thing has not been printed because this is unmounted. And as a result of that unmounting, you see B2 and A2, because now you are just cleaning up, but cleaning up will also happen in the same order. So firstly this cleanup, layout effect cleanup, and then use effect cleanup. So that's why you see B2 and A2. Again if you start doing again the same thing, let's say I make it 12, so again it will mount, and then again same thing, like CB2 B1 CB2 CB2 B1 A2 A1 CB2 B1 A2 A1. So these things will keep on happening. Now just let's see one final thing, that if I would have had here let's say empty dependency array, right, then what is going to happen? Then if we build again, just to see the clean version of this console log, so that double mounting is not happening in React 18. That's why we are running in prod mode. But let's see. So now you'll see that once the first mount happens, then this is straightforward: C B1 A1. So you can see that C B1 and A1, this is first mount only, right? So there is no cleanup going on. Now after that, if you clean this up, after that if you keep on changing name, then you can see that only C is printing. Why? Because these effects will not run. These effects are what essentially we are saying that run this effect at mount and clean up at unmount, because dependency array is nothing. Earlier dependency nothing was there, which means that dependency array which means that on every render it will run, right? Now I'm giving dependency array empty, which means that it will only run on unmount. So that's why only CCC is printing. However, once I click on next n, which means that 10 will become 11, then this thing is going to be unmount. Now once it is going to unmount, then only this cleanup function will run. So you saw that earlier never it ran, but when I click this, then B2 and A2, B2 and A2, they ran. Okay, so and again if you make it 12, then again the same thing will start, and if you keep on changing name, then nothing will happen. Only the first time this is B1 A1 is coming at the time of mounting, and when you unmount, then so you can see like this, first time, and then after that you keep on changing, doesn't matter, and then when you unmount, then in the same order B2 A2 is called. Okay, so yeah, that should give you a fair idea about how the cleanup function fits into this whole picture of events. So yeah, that should be all for this one. See you in the next one.